Welcome, nerdlings, to Alpha Nerd Book Review, a show where authors and artists review science fiction and fantasy books. And today we're going to be reviewing GuardsGuards by the late, great Terry Pratchett. I'm Alpha Nerd Matthew Mitchell, author of the upcoming novel Beyond the End, which hopefully will be out by the end of summer. I'm joined by my amazingly talented co-nerds, artist Misha Jones, who draws the webcomic Desolation Row, writer Fiona Skye, author of the book Taming Shadows and the upcoming novel Silver Shackles.
Hi.
And finally, writer and model Tversia, author of...
Hi.
Tversia Pounce! Author of Viscountess and Countess. The links to everyone's stuff will be in the description, by the way, so if you missed it, that's fine. Does anyone have any announcements before we get started? Any cons or anything fun anyone's doing? Any book signings or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm going to be working with White Lightning Productions at A-Kon and the first weekend in June. I've done a couple of T-shirts designed for him. I do some naughty comics for him. Lots of cool stuff that you can find at whitelightningproductions.com, I believe. And in, September, I'm doing A-Fest, and that's just me selling my things.
Yeah, everything in Dallas, right?
Oh, yeah, duh. This is all Dallas, yes. And, you can find their websites and stuff. But do A-Kon Dallas, because the regular A-Kon will send you to a rapper.
Tversia, you got anything?
I that was on purpose, that thing that I just did, the flashy entrance. Not a coincidence. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm just Tversia on Twitter. I'm Tversia.net. It's my website. You can Google me. I don't even know what will come up, but you'll probably find me. That's pretty much it. Oh, yeah, like you just said, I authored Viscountess and then Countess, the sequel, which just came out. They're both on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and I don't know, you could probably also call them in your local library, which would be pretty awesome.
Fiona, you got anything?
Just my new book coming out next month in June, June 15th. And that's it.
It's awesome. I'm lucky enough to have already read it, and it's great. So you should buy it. Okay. All
yeah,
right.
what he said.
So just a quick note. Next episode, we'll be reviewing Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. All right. The book we read this month was GuardsGuards by Terry Pratchett. I'm just going to go ahead and read the back of the book to get us started for the viewers that haven't read it yet. All right. Welcome to GuardsGuards, the 8th book in Terry Pratchett's legendary Discworld series. Long believed extinct, a superb species of Draco nobilis, noble dragon for those who don't understand italics, has appeared in Discworld's greatest city. Not only does this unwelcome visitor have a nasty habit of charbroiling everything in its path, in rather short order, it's crowned king. It is a noble dragon, after all. How did it get there? How is the unique and supreme lodge of the elucidated Brethren of the Ebon Knight involved? Can Ankh-Morport's City Watch restore order and the patrician of Ankh-Morport to power? Magic mayhem and a marauding dragon. Who could ask for anything more? All right. It's been a long time since I read Terry Pratchett. I think the last time I read Terry Pratchett, I was in high school. And so I sort of forgot, what Terry Pratchett's novels were like. And I had a lot of fun with this book. But it's definitely a style that I would sort of describe as maybe comedy, fantasy, noir. And it's a little bit... Do y'all kind of agree with that?
Yes, absolutely.
Heavy on the noir.
Yeah. And it was a little...
And the comedy.
Yeah. And the
comedy. Mostly so on the comedy, actually.
It was a little bit of, since I had forgotten what I had initially, what it was like, it was a little bit of a shock to go into that. Especially since most of the books I've been reading lately are pretty heavy, so it was a nice change of pace, but it was definitely a shock to kind of go into that. It made me very much think of Douglas Adams and Douglas Adams' style of writing, a sort of very comedy, very irreverent. Overall impressions. Let's go around. Just kind of give a one-line description of how you felt about the book, Nisha.
I hated it.
Ouch.
Anything more specific than that?
It took me half the book to get to a point where I actually gave a damn about the characters. But when I did, I was very passionate, very like vocally like yelling out when certain things happened, and but honestly, the writing style just I couldn't stand it. There are not enough pronouns, not enough like punctuations to designate when things were going on.
All that. We'll get into all that.
Hey, you asked for longer.
No. Fiona, what'd you think? One line summary.
I love Terry Pratchett. I think he's one of my favorite writers. And the City Watch series is definitely my favorite. Sam Vimes. I love him so much.
I did like
This
Vimes.
is the book that got me hooked on reading Terry Pratchett.
I did like Vimes. And can I say two things about this book? One, I saw Vimes as like as Johnny Depp, like a very erratic Johnny Depp, like one of his really weird characters. And I could not help but read this book in the narrative voice of Stephen Fry. And maybe that's because I've been playing a lot of Little Big Planet, and he narrates that. But like I could not read this like every time, like and it enhanced the experience, to be honest. Like, but as I was reading this book, I could only read it like in the voice of Stephen Fry. So, Taverja, one line summary.
Well, I don't think I could do the book justice, considering the fact that I did not finish reading it.
Oh.
But what I have read of it, I will say, I totally get the kind of shock, like that you just, because I've also been involved in some heavy literary work, so to have that kind of almost slapstick humor in certain places. Yeah, it's
I was literally about to say that in my head.
Yeah. So and it's like, I mean, that might have been why I was a little bit slower to read it, because it's not something that I typically go out of my way to really immerse myself in.
So how do you feel about Monty Python? I know it's sort of only marginally related, but
I love Monty
sort of
Python.
seeing a thread.
No, I love Monty Python.
If I had to read Monty Python on a deadline, I would hate it. But watching Monty Python, when I'm in a mood to watch Monty Python, I freak out. I grew up on Monty Python. That's the difference to me. I had to read this.
Okay.
It didn't translate well in my head.
So my one line summary, I thought it was funny. I thought it was a funny, snarky read that didn't take itself too seriously. So that's my one line summary.
None of this does.
So world building. Let's do like overview. Believability, how'd you like the magic system, unique races and species and stuff like that. Let me say, I think that my favorite character, other than Vimes, I like Vimes a lot. My favorite character, though, I think hands down, was the librarian. I love the librarian.
Yes.
And I sort of liked, there's a couple of things that I liked about the magic system. Or there wasn't, I mean, it wasn't too heavily described, but I love that books just in and of their nature are magic. And I loved the sort of description of the library itself. I thought that was really kind of neat and unique. And I thought it was just kind of a lot of fun. Misha?
All right. I know I did say that I hated reading the book, but the world was so believable, and so it wasn't heavy-handed in the, let me explain every little bit to you so that you understand how this works. It just sort of went along with it, and you're just like, oh, well, okay, I guess that's a thing. But it kept it going that I'm just like, I'm not even questioning a dragon farting to fly. I'm all down. Spoiler. But no, I was just like, yes, absolutely. That's completely what should happen in this world. I didn't even blink at the librarian. I clearly, that's completely logical. I loved it.
Fiona?
Discworld is one of my favorite. This is just going to be like gushing, glowing, the whole thing.
Wait till we get to Jacqueline Carey or Jim Butcher, and I'll be the gushing one.
The Discworld is just this fantastically detailed world with all kinds of nuances, and the fact that it's fantastical does not affect it in any way. I think it is still so real, like you can imagine yourself being there. I don't know, the magic system is more of a mechanism for humor, I think, than for anything else. most of the practitioners, particularly in this book with the wizards, are just kind of idiots.
Yeah, so I think that was one of the, as far as my understanding of the book, and I'm sure it's probably only this book. I'm sure in the other books there's a little bit more with the wizards, but I didn't get a clear understanding at all of what the wizards did or what they could do. I feel like at least, and I think that it was maybe only in this book, which, by the way,
I liked that. I feel like it's
Yeah.
detailed. It's not over explained.
You can read the Discworld books out of order. They don't really have to be read. Like, you'll get a little bit more out of them if you read them in order, but you can read them out of order. But to me the wizards were only there as a backdrop, and really the only time they were mentioned is either in sort of history or that they were fleeing spells at the dragon that might as well have been frogs, which I love that description. Might as well have been throwing frogs at them. But I didn't get a clear understanding at all what wizards could do, but I don't think that was the focus of the book. So.
Yeah, no, and then that's why, I think, and then that would be my commentary, is just that while it I mean, I appreciated how it flowed, I felt like this is my first time actually reading Terry Pratchett, and from what I did, I was able to read while I did have some hangups on, the slapstick humor, much like Misha did as well, I guess. But what I did appreciate about the book was just that that it had a flow, and I felt like my hand wasn't being held through it, and that I just I feel like his writing, he trusts his readers to just have a certain amount of sense.
He absolutely treats his readers like adults, and I really respect that about it. Even if I didn't, so I like this book, but even if I didn't, I would have appreciated that about Terry Pratchett, is he treats his readers like adults. I did very much like that. There wasn't any hand-holding. Like you said, I agree with that completely.
No needless exposition.
No, there really wasn't. So it was a unique take on the Tolkien-esque fantasy world. I liked the sort of humor noir of it. And I think one of the things that I most appreciated about the book is how he sort of took tropes and people's expectations and made that the joke. And sort of turned it on its head and used people's expectations of what sort of fantasy should be, and as sort of the build up to the joke. And I think that worked pretty well. Even if people like Misha, who didn't really get into the book so much, I think you kind of have to admit it was pretty good at that. At sort of taking our expectations and understanding of tropes and using that to be the setup for the humor or the irony or whatever. I did really appreciate that. In particular, as I've already said, I loved the librarian. If I don't know if there is a book just about the librarian, I'm going to read it because I love it.
Kind of. I mean, there's a whole there's a whole series about the wizards and the Unseen University, and he's in almost every single one of those, and you find out how he became an orangutan.
I loved him. I think one of my favorite lines of the book, I don't know if I put this in my notes, but when he describes him shrugging as like a sack of potatoes, like a sack of potatoes with arms. I loved that description. Okay, so storytelling, narration, imagery, dialogue, pacing, theme, mood, tone, symbolism. Did the perspective feel right? Was the story easy to get into? Misha.
I mean, this is where I have to go back to I hated it. I'm sorry. And I know if we had viewers, I'd be getting death threats right now. I'm certain. But
just wait for the comments. Just wait for the comments. It'll all be
I promise you. And I've read Terry Pratchett before. I've never read Terry Pratchett solo. And I just think there's some writers whose style, their sort of mental narrative that they put down just doesn't work for everyone. And it kept me from comprehending enough to be able to say anything about anything.
I'll say this, and I actually want to hear Fiona's input on this because she's my editor. But I'll say this about the book. I feel like he needed an editor with a stronger hand.
Yes.
I feel like he needed to be reined in a little bit and been especially there was a few places where it was all right, man, this shit's confusing. You need a paragraph break here, or you need a scene break here, and let's move on to the next perspective. What did you think?
Erasure. Can I get some quotation marks? Can I get a couple of pronouns? Who the hell is speaking? I had to read things after that to be like, oh, clearly this person is talking because that's their voice, and I just understand it because I know what they would have said. I have no clue beyond that. Yeah, it was very difficult to follow, and maybe it's just the blonde in me showing through. Sorry.
You seem very purple and blue to me, not blonde at all. What? So what do you think?
Oh, that's how we get to blonde or get to purple.
What do you think,
Be
Fiona?
blonde first.
As far as editing goes, I mean, I am not going to say anything bad about this book because I love Terry Pratchett so much I can't even voice how much I love him. To me, he is the consummate storyteller. He's not a writer. He's not a novelist. He's a storyteller. And his books always kind of feel like sitting out somewhere in Yorkshire, sipping pints, and listening to someone tell stories rather than feeling like it was something that someone had read. I don't know. I've never had any problems following, he doesn't use dialogue tags a lot, but I think that's because his characters all have such a unique and different voice that it kind of feels like it would be superfluous if you wouldn't actually need dialogue tags because, I mean, you can tell the difference between Nobby talking and Colin talking and Carrot. Their voices are so unique and so different, you don't necessarily need those dialogue tags. So,
the dialogue
I don't know.
Far
be it from me, as a lowly freelance editor, to second guess someone like Sir Pratchett,
Lowly freelance editor. You're good. Diversia.
I felt, again, a little, I was able to read that I definitely see the problems with the dialogue to that end where it is, I had to read it over a few times too in certain instances to really capture exactly who was speaking in much the same way. But it could also be attributed to the fact that this is my first exposure to Terry Pratchett, and I don't even know if this is his first book. Is it?
No, it's like the 8th book in the series.
Is this his first?
No.
Okay, yeah. So that also I'm starting in a weird place. So coming in as a new reader and kind of sometimes while I said previously that I appreciate that he doesn't hold the hand of the reader, I'm speaking more objectively in that sense, as opposed instead of simply saying, well, actually, maybe in this circumstance, I would have liked my hand held just a little bit more because I don't know what's really happening. Yeah. So he's a very colorful writer. The dialogue he uses, the words he uses are very expressive, and he's interesting, and the world is very colorful. But it's not a book that I could get into, if only for the manner in which it was told. And I could certainly see what you were saying in regards to, wow, what's the editor doing in terms of kind of mitigating that,
right.
So I don't know. I'm finding it. I found it difficult.
So let me say, I thought about the first quarter of the book was really hard to get into. It was really difficult. It wasn't that it wasn't interesting. It just didn't have me. It just didn't pull me in. And it felt like it would have been a really easy book to set down and come back to later. But so that being said, I thought there were some really, and I think that maybe specifically as a writer, there were some really wonderful descriptions in there. And I made a couple of notes, and one of them that I thought was really great was so. Faint traceries of blue fire crawled across the bookcase, and there was a sound, a papery whispering, such as might come from a colony of roosting starlings. In the silence of the night, the books talked to one another. There were several pieces of writing like that just struck me as wow, that just wowed me. I was I just want to stop reading right there and appreciate that prose. There's a couple. There were several places throughout the book that were I feel like that is some of the most amazing descriptions I've ever read.
That's sort of his hallmark, though. I think Because he really, I mean, he has this amazing ability to, he being Pratchett, has this amazing ability to sort of balance his goofy humor with incredibly beautiful, poignant descriptions with
I also feel like there was
super smart satire.
I also feel like there's some pretty amazing observations upon human nature. Now, some might say it was very cynical, but
wait. Some might say cynical. Anyone who was reading it would say
you could certainly say
stupidly over cynical.
You could certainly say it was cynical. So I enjoyed the dry sort of satirical criticisms of human nature, and overall the tone of the book, as I said before, sort of reminded me of like Douglas Adams or Piers Anthony. It didn't take itself very seriously, and often it seemed to sort of be poking fun at the genre in general. And also, I don't know if anyone else but me saw this, but sort of like writing in general. Like there were several times it seemed he took like things that are sort of considered to be hackish or whatever, and used them like almost gleefully, like as part of his writing. You could tell it was intentional because it was only in certain places. And I wish I'd marked the scene, but there's this one scene where it was Carrot and one of the other guards, and every dialogue tag it was he pondered, he extrapolated whatever instead of saying he said whatever. And I feel like, and it was only in these certain instances which were meant to be sort of melodramatic, and I it's sort of like the writer in me wanted to be like, oh, that's hackish, but then as I read it as a whole, I was like, oh, he's making fun of writing. He's making fun of people's expectations. And from like a meta perspective, I really got into that.
I do want to say, by the way, I think Alan Moore looked at that book and just cringed and said, maybe you did a little too much with the cynicism. I'm just saying.
That's right. No, it was cynical. But it also had a very much of general, I'm laughing with you, not at you sort of feel to it, which I liked. Some of my largest criticisms in the book come from the sometimes confusing perspective changes. Like I said before, I really wish that he'd had an editor kind of to like just reel him in just a little bit. And how often actions would stop, and he would, like the action of the book would stop, and he would expound on something. I'm like, that's not the time for exposition. Is you can do it before or after. You can't do it. You can't stop the action to expound. So that annoyed me as a reader. And I felt myself like wanting to throw the book a couple of times because of that. But overall, it was really entertaining. I found myself chuckling a lot, but the pacing was slow, sort of like Misha said. And I feel like it was about the first 25% to third of the book. The pacing wasn't right. The tension wasn't right. I didn't get into it until after that point. Now, when I got into it, again around that point, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the last 2/3 of this book quite a lot, but it was hard to get into. I wouldn't describe it as a page turner. It'd have been very easy for me to set this book down. So anyway,
there's something wrong with you.
You know what? There's lots of things wrong with me. Okay. Characterization. How do you feel about the characters, backstory, development, relations, verisimilitude, favorite, least favorite characters? Were the antagonists well developed? I'm going to go first on this one. I thought the dichotomy between Carrot and the rest of the characters was very interesting. And I loved it because Carrot was clearly set up to be like the sort of quintessential hero. But he was just a side character. I love that. I thought that was really cool. And that Carrot was this sort of naive, pure-hearted, brave, and virtually every other character in the book is sort of charmingly mired in their flaws and sort of defined by their flaws. And I thought that was a really interesting and fun choice. I'm so tired of the trope of the long lost king that really has been raised on a farm, comes back to reclaim his birthright. I like that it was purposefully made fun of in this, and sort of purposefully teased. And at the same time, so the characters were very real. Now Misha will probably say that they were very cynical, but I felt like they were characters that most of us can at least relate to a little bit. That most of them are pretty selfish, and they were characters that we could relate to. But I feel like, especially as far as Captain Vimes goes, he starts from a place of maybe someone that not very many people look up to, but by the end of the book, sort of in the last scenes, he's like steps in front of a sword, like he's willing to sacrifice himself to do what's right. So in that respect, I feel like Captain Vime's storyline is really sort of the main narrative of the book. So what do you think, Misha?
All right, so really my only problem, and I guess maybe he was so cynical that he just, and it was towards the end, it just kind of gave me a bad taste over the entire book. And please forgive me, it had been a while since I churned through this book forcibly. What on earth is the name of the guy who ends up being the head mage and was just making the whole thing happen? What is his name? The main bad guy.
Wants, is that it?
Yes.
Yeah.
His diatribe at the end, I was just like, God, can someone kill you? I hated him so completely. There was, and I mean, I have like a lot of villains in my comic, and many of them are somewhat lovable, and I have lots of good guys who are absolute jerks. So I appreciate the human condition in a character, but his was just like, your slime, you don't even need to be in this book. Someone give you a little bit less flaws. But I do want to say who my favorite character was. The farting dinosaur.
I was going to say that.
Sorry, yes. It's Beer 30. The farting dragon.
Yeah,
no, really. Because when you can take a character that doesn't speak and make me care that much about something that if it was in my house, I would murder it for destroying everything I hold dear. I mean, I actually gave a crap. And the fact that he made all the other characters give a crap about him. I love that little guy so much.
I think it was all in the setup. I think it was in the long setup of when you're reading it, you're like, this is just humor. You don't understand. And then you come to the end of it.
You start caring. The more it's funny, the more you're like,
I thought that was great. Yeah, and I
loved it. I loved him.
I love the over important names that all the little dragons had. All the little dragons had.
She was also. I love, and gosh, I'm so sorry. Again, Beer 30. What was her name?
Lady
Sybil. Sybil Ramkin.
Sybil. I loved Sybil because Sybil was a big, tall girl, and I got the impression, maybe it was just me, putting my own wishes onto a character, but I was thinking she's like a big, curvy giantess of a woman, and she's not delicate and she's not frail, but she still has that propriety, which I'm just like, I loved everything about her. She seemed real.
I also like that she had license, like she was pursuing Captain Vimes.
Yes, much that.
I like that about her a lot. It was sort of meant to be. So like the setting is sort of meant to. I feel like it's a fantasy setting, but it sort of has almost like a Renaissance or medieval era like tint to it. And Ankh-Morpork in general, I feel like is supposed to be medieval London. I don't know if y'all agree with that.
Yeah, I can see that.
Medieval
All
London.
of Discworld is supposed to be the UK.
Okay. So, but I mean, like Ankh-Morpork specifically felt like medieval London, and she felt like a noble. But I really loved her. I mean, like purely as far as like being a good person, I think that she was hands down the best character.
Yes.
Carrot, but Carrot didn't have a lot of dimension to him.
Okay, Carrot's not a person. Carrot is a walking trope.
No, he is a trope.
Carrot is there. But I just had two more things, and then I'll shut up because I actually cared a lot about the characters. The characters are about I could care less what happened. The characters were wonderful. He was a walking trope. He was just there to be made the butt of jokes. I really didn't get anything of him. And I think that was kind of the point because there really wasn't much. He didn't follow through with the story. But I actually really enjoyed how the Watch cared with each other and how they interacted with each other. Even when they were kind of slimy, even when they were ditching and doing the completely human thing. Because seriously, you see a bunch of guys turn into a shadow at, the behest of a dragon flame. I'm walking the other way.
Peace
I don't
out.
know about you.
Peace out.
Deuces, bees, deuces. But yes, no, I loved everyone except for, oh my God, Watts? Huh? Watts, thank you. And Carrot. Those are the only two I just really, I even liked the oh my God, the king guy,
Ventinari, Lord Ventinari.
Yes, I actually
oh my God.
really liked him. His speeches, his dialogue was some of the best in the book, in my opinion. I loved it.
All I'm saying about Lord Ventinari is if he was running for president, I would probably vote for him. That's all
I probably would too.
But I will say this: I love the one thing about you're kind of right about Carrot. He was flat. Carrot was kind of flat and not very dynamic. But I will say this, and one thing that very much endeared him to me, I love how like in love he was with his dwarf like girlfriend.
Oh my God!
In his letters, he always asked about her. I was like, aww.
But did you notice that in every letter that he sent, the P.S. what he asks after her gets a little more disinterested?
It does.
In every subsequent one.
I really felt for Carrot.
I didn't notice that. Oh my gosh.
I was like that to me. That sort of endeared him to me more than almost anything else. I also like how he treated the librarian after he got through his head that he wasn't an animal.
Yes. Okay. The librarian was definitely a great character as well. I clearly like if you just gave me characters and I didn't have to like read dialogue for 9, I'd probably just like that. Like just snippets of that. Everything the Watch did, I loved. It was just comedy and personality, and I loved it. All right, I'll shut up now.
We've talked a lot, Fiona.
I love all the characters. This is so boring. I'm sorry.
Pick one.
Okay, so in every single police force or security firm or whatever, you're going to have a Corporal Colin and you're going to have a Corporal Knobs. And you might even have a Carrot, Lance Corporal Carrot, but probably not. But
thank God.
You will never have a Sam Vimes. There's only one Sam Vimes. And he is like my third favorite character ever written in all the books I've ever read. And I think it's because I've read every single one of Sir Terry's books, all 40 of the Discworld books. And I have seen how Sam has changed from GuardsGuards up until Snuff, which is the most recent one in the Guards series. And I have seen how he's changed and grown, and he's not quite as cynical he's not quite as cynical now as he was when he first started. So I don't know. And Sybil, I mean, how can you not love a giant girl who puts her big girl panties on and goes out and mucks stalls with, swamp dragons in them? And
I feel like she was the definitely the most relatable character in all the books. Like I liked her. I definitely liked her the best. Or of all the characters. What do you think, Tverja?
I said the farting dragon, but I'm gonna go with Sybil as well.
Yeah, she was pretty awesome.
You gotta love the farting dragon.
So I'm kind of skipping ahead on this, but with Sybil, I picture her as Gwendolyn Christie, who is the person that plays.
Yes. That's what was going through my head when I was reading it a little bit. Although the difference, I suppose. Well, I mean, I perhaps her in real life, not so much Brienne. I didn't get that sense.
Yeah, her in real life. She plays Brienne of Tarth on Game of Thrones.
Right.
The actress is Gwendolyn Christie, and that's who I pictured as Lady Ramkin. The plot. Let's talk about the plot a little bit. Did you like it? Was it easy to follow? Was it believable? Moral conflicts? There wasn't really any sexy times. Was there a satisfying resolution? Misha, what'd you think?
Definitely satisfying resolution. I'm going to agree with you on the first third of the book. I couldn't get into it. But once I started getting into just the flow of how everything was going, it being my first complete Terry Pratchett book, I was unprepared. I like the way it ended. I felt like the battle scenes were great. I mean, I'm kind of, and I struggle with that in my comic because you've got to have action, but I'm much more for dialogue. Only if I have like an entire book of two people sitting and talking, no one wants to read it. So, I liked that. I felt like they had a good in between, and I liked how things were resolved. I hate, enter thing ex machina. Let's just you're writing the whole bloody world. You can make a viable reason for why things happen. And I feel like he really was on par with that.
Fiona?
Well, like I said earlier, this was the book that got me hooked on the Discworld series. My husband started me off with Weird Sisters, which is about witches, basically. And I couldn't get into it for whatever reason. The writing was actually boring to me. But he's like, okay, so try this series, and he gave it to me, and I think it was Sam Vimes. He just sucked me in. I love him. I would marry him if it were possible.
I'm going to tell your husband.
Huh?
I'm going to tell your husband.
Well, he knows. We've had that talk.
Right, it's fine.
So I'm sensing a good cosplay between the two of you. I definitely think that you Sybil, you could do Vimes. I think that would be awesome.
Diversion? Oh, a moment.
I have a cat.
Oh, it's a kitty.
Oh,
I know that kitty.
I didn't know we could bring cats to the party.
Yeah. His
Hi,
name's
guys.
Nutella.
Oh,
Yeah.
hi, Kitty. What do you think about the
Please
book,
stop.
Kitty?
Please stop.
That's what I think of the resolution. I have a cat.
He seems so happy with this.
Fiona's going to kick me from afar, but you didn't miss much.
Okay. No, yeah, I wish I could make commentary on the resolution, but I didn't finish the book because I suck.
Oh, we still love you. Okay, so I kind of already said, like, I felt like the pacing was a little bit off, especially in the beginning. I did like the moral evolution of the characters, and specifically Vimes. I mean, I thought that it was believable. I felt like it was well done as to sort of his moral thought process and stuff like that. One of my favorite scenes of the book was when he needs to get into the palace, and he gets Carrot to kick the asses of the guards that are out front. I loved that, and he just sits down and lets it happen.
Best use of Carrot in the entire book, easily.
Yes, I love that, and he's like, all right, that's enough. And just throw him in the closet. I like that. Overall, I felt like I felt like it was good. I liked that. I loved the love story, the romance aspect between Lady Ramkin and Vimes. I thought it was charming, and believable. And again, I like that she was the more aggressive one, and that he was really reserved, and he didn't think that he was really worthy of dating a noble woman or whatever. And she was the aggressor, and I liked that a lot. I felt like that, and I felt like it worked in the story. I felt like it was fun. I felt like it was charming. I felt like it was touching. Okay, favorite and least favorite parts. I've already said mine pretty much. My least favorite part was like the first third of the book. I felt like it dragged. I felt like the pacing was off. I couldn't get into it as much, and I liked the last 2/3. My favorite parts. I loved everything with the librarian. We haven't really talked about this much. I actually liked the scenes with the Enunciated Brotherhood. I thought they were really funny, and I thought that they were very much a critique of sort of human nature. Like if you take a step back and look at them like that, I thought that they were very poignant, and kind of true. In a cynical way. Like it's definitely viewed through a cynical lens. But those are sort of my favorite and least favorite parts about the book. Misha?
All right. I will not cheat and just say the whole damn book. Anything with Lady Ramkin in it, anything with the farting dragon in it, because I freaking loved him. He was adorable, and he was clearly the hero of the whole damn show. Vimes was the second fiddle. Also, anything with Vimes in it, because I love the way that he spoke the best. I really liked wherever the Watch was in, and honestly, I just couldn't stand anything that didn't have Vimes, the Watch, or Ramkin in it. I would actually skip to pieces where I would see them speaking like, okay, I get the gist of what's happening here. Let's watch some more interesting things over this way.
Fiona?
Errol's whole transformation from Swamp Dragon into Supersonic Jet. The whole eating the tea kettle and the shoe polish and the bronze polisher. That was just brilliant. And are we doing spoilers? Are we not doing spoilers?
I think we're way past spoilers.
Because the whole courtship between Errol and the king, that was brilliant.
Yeah.
It was a nice little twist that I don't think many people saw coming.
Diversion?
Being that I didn't really get through but the first third of the book, I don't really have a whole lot to comment on, unfortunately, simply because I didn't finish it. I don't know. My favorite character was... What's that? Yes, I do. I do have a cat. I'm sorry.
If you were casting the characters in a movie, like who would you pick? So I'm gonna go first on this one. So Vimes already said I like Johnny Depp. I feel like as one of his like weird, funky characters, like in a like Jack Sparrow sort of way. Lady Ramkin already said Gwendolyn Christie. Lord Ventinari, I like Charles Dance, and he's the guy that plays Tywin Lannister.
He actually wait.
Yes.
Hold on a second. I need to look something up.
Okay, Google away. So I like Charles Dance for that. And the other,
Okay, you want to know something funny about Charles Dance?
What?
There is either a BBC or Sky TV production of some Discworld books, and he actually plays Veterinary in those.
Total,
you win.
total
You win,
vindication.
sir.
Total vindication. So
I guess we can't say anything about inventory. He's already picked.
Yeah.
We have to agree with that.
So I wasn't so for Nobby and what was the sergeant?
Colin.
So let me tell you who I can't remember their names, but the person that I picked for them. So you know in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, the guy with like the wooden eye and like his fat friend.
Yes. I told you there are Colins and Nobbies everywhere.
Those are the two that I like very much. Was like I can't see anyone
guy.
but them.
The thin guy is totally Nobby.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yes.
With the eye, yes.
Okay. So what did y'all think? What any other alternate castings on that one?
Well, my veterinary would be Jeremy Irons,
Mm.
and my Vimes would be Hugh Laurie.
Okay.
Oh,
I
yes.
can see that too, like kind of going in a different way. That might be
And
because I love-
my carrot would be Sam Hugan,
Okay, who's
who
that?
is Jamie from Outlander.
I don't see Carrot as being that like I don't know, good looking and suave.
He is though. He's giant.
I see
He's
someone
like
being-
6'6" and built like a swimmer.
I see someone more like gangly as Carrot. I don't know. Anyway.
No.
You have a cat. I raised you a cute 3-year-old.
I don't think I can beat that.
You have a cat?
I do. Do you want to see? I'll go get him.
Sorry, I derailed the YouTube.
That's okay.
Oh, I know who I want the female dragon to be. Cumberbatch.
Oh,
Alternately, he could be the farting dragon.
What's her name?
Oh no, we've lost my daughter.
His name is Nutella.
He could be the small. In fact, no, I changed my mind.
Her name.
He should be the small farting dragon
Yes.
because that tiny dragon demands a voice with like
Yes.
impetus and just
Absolutely. I agree.
yeah.
that's not really fair though because Cumberbatch can play anything.
Yes, he can.
So okay, would you recommend this book? Tough read or easy read? I'm gonna go first. I would absolutely recommend this book with the understanding that it is very comedy-esque. Like, with the understanding of, like, you know what you're getting into. It is sort of a comedy. And like I've already said like 8 times, I thought that it was not, the first third of the book was not an easy read at all. I could have easily sat down and been done with it, and come back to it like a year later. After that, the last 2/3 of the book I enjoyed.
Okay.
So what do you think, Misha?
No.
I just want to see it.
I would recommend it because I have several friends, including my husband, who are huge Discworld fanatics, and I think they would get this. And I would give it the caveat of just bear with it. It's worthwhile, and think of everything that the dragon says as Cumberbatch, and you will enjoy the entire book.
Fiona?
I think that's a big no-duh that I would recommend it. I would recommend it to anyone and everyone, regardless if they even like fantasy books. I would make them read this.
Are you gonna pull like a Clockwork Orange on us and like tape our eyes open and force us to read it?
Yes.
Like everything?
All of them. All 40 of them.
What about you two, Virgia?
I always like to finish a book before I actually recommend it. However, what I had read, I feel as though I get a sense of where the direction the book was going, and the characters are so colorful that I feel as though even as I finish it, this would be a book that I would probably end up recommending. Just from what little I was able to read, even in the patches where I thought, okay, I don't really, it's kind of, everything that we just discussed.
Sucks. Awful.
All right.
Fiona, you can't ever come to Texas.
Non-believers.
Done. It's
Done.
You can get me back next month because I'm the biggest fangirl
What's
about.
going to happen is I'm going to love this book too, and I'll just be like, can we read something that she absolutely loves that I will hate just so she can feel how I feel right now?
Okay. I'm wrong. I accept my position is wrong.
Okay. No, you know what? It's
I'm a Philistine. It's cool. I'm just a lowly writer. I don't write anything. I don't matter.
It's boring if everyone always agrees. Okay? So
That's true.
Okay, so just a
Except
reminder,
about this book, because everyone should agree about it. So,
so just a reminder, next month we'll be reviewing Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. And yeah, thank you everyone. So
bye.
bye. See you next month again. So
Bye. Say bye.